Did you know that one of the most venerated martyrs in the history of Christianity was a young woman who defied an empire with her faith? Saint Catherine of Alexandria, known as the patron saint of philosophers and students, left a legacy that continues to inspire hearts and souls around the world. In this documentary, we will discover her life, her miracles, and how her devotion transcends the centuries. Stay until the end for a special prayer dedicated to her. Alexandria, the jewel of the Mediterranean, was more than a city. It was a symbol of human greatness. In the 3rd century, its streets were a melting pot of cultures, where Greeks, Egyptians, Jews, and Romans coexisted in constant tension. Its famous library, with thousands of manuscripts, was the cradle of knowledge, while its temples glorified the ancient gods, surrounded by the incense of offerings and prayers. However, behind that facade of splendor, the shadow of persecution loomed over Christians. It was a time when the Roman Empire, facing internal crises, saw this new faith as a threat to the established order. Emperor Diocletian, and later Maximian Daia, unleashed one of the most brutal persecutions in history. The martyrs became examples of resistance, and their blood watered the seed of a faith that could not be extinguished. Alexandria, with its mix of paganism and philosophy, was an intellectual and spiritual battleground. Debates among scholars were common, and in that environment of constant confrontation of ideas, a new generation of Christians emerged. Men and women who not only defended their faith with fervor, but also with eloquence and reasoning. It was in this vibrant but dangerous city that Catherine was born. Her life would be marked by the duality of Alexandria, the love of knowledge and the fight against oppression. Amidst the tumult, her story began to weave itself, not as just another noble young woman, but as a figure destined to challenge the empire. 3rd century Alexandria not only witnessed the fall of empires and the rise of new religions, but also the birth of heroes of the faith. Catherine would be one of those heroes, a light in a dark age, whose story continues to inspire centuries later. The childhood and youth of Catherine, wisdom and faith from the beginning. Catherine was born into a noble family in Alexandria, in a house where wealth seemed limitless. Surrounded by privileges, she was carefully educated in philosophy, literature, and sciences. From a young age, she showed prodigious intelligence, capable of challenging even the most experienced tutors, who said she had the intellect of an adult sage. Despite her environment, Catherine did not let herself be consumed by luxury. There was a curiosity within her for something deeper, something that material wealth could not offer. She spent hours reading and contemplating, seeking answers to questions that even her teachers could not answer. Her quest for truth was a flame that burned silently, waiting to be kindled. Her beauty, as notable as her mind, attracted the attention of suitors from across the empire. Powerful men, from senators to generals, offered matrimonial alliances to her family. But Catherine rejected them all, saying that her heart was reserved for a greater purpose, though at that moment she did not know what it was. While other young women dreamed of dresses and banquets, Catherine dreamed of understanding the universe. Inside, she felt a restlessness that drove her to seek something larger than herself. This void, which seemed unusual for someone of her status, led her to question the pagan beliefs of her surroundings. Catherine's childhood was not only a period of learning, but also of preparation. There was something in her spirit, something that set her apart from others, as if her destiny was already written. Unbeknownst to her, the young noble was preparing to face challenges that would change the course of history. The encounter with Christ, the conversion of a bright young woman. Catherine's search found its answer one night when she received a visit from an elderly Christian man. This man, a wise hermit who knew the Scriptures, spoke to her of a Savior who offered not material riches, but eternal life. Catherine listened in silence, but in her heart, each word ignited a spark. It was as if she had waited her entire life to hear that truth. After days of reflection, Catherine made the decision that would change her life forever. In a secret ceremony, she was baptized, and at that instant, she felt as if a heavy burden was lifted from her spirit. That very night, she had a celestial vision. In her dream, Christ appeared before her and placed a ring on her finger, sealing her commitment to him. Catherine awoke transformed, with a peace and determination she had never felt before. From that moment on, her life took a radical turn. She completely rejected pagan beliefs and dedicated her time to studying the Scriptures. Her eloquence and wisdom soon drew attention, and she began to preach the Christian faith, despite the risks involved. Rumors about the young noblewoman who had embraced Christianity began to circulate. Catherine had not only found the truth, but was also determined to share it, regardless of the consequences. Her faith, born from a profound encounter with Christ, became the driving force behind everything she would do from that day forward. But this decision was not without conflict. Catherine lost the support of her family and was rejected by many of her friends. However, her conviction was so strong that neither loneliness nor danger could deter her from her path. The bravery before the emperor, the beginning of her martyrdom. It was an autumn day when Catherine, barely 18 years old, appeared before Emperor Maximian Dia. Her figure, dressed in a simple yet elegant cloak, contrasted with the opulence of the imperial palace. "Why do you persecute those who seek the truth?" she asked with a clear voice that resonated in the hall. Maximian, accustomed to submission, was bewildered by the boldness of this young woman. The emperor tried to dissuade her with flattery and promises. He offered her wealth, power, and marriage to a man of high rank, but Catherine responded firmly, "My only husband is Christ. No wealth in this world can compare to what he has given me." Her words, spoken with serenity, caused Maximian to shift from admiration to anger. Unable to break her, the emperor ordered that she be imprisoned. In the solitude of her cell, Catherine did not break. On the contrary, she used the time to pray and strengthen her spirit. It is said that even in prison, her faith was so strong that she managed to convert several of her guards, who knelt before her and accepted Christianity. Catherine's bravery was not just an act of resistance, but a testimony of her commitment to faith. Her imprisonment did not dim her light. On the contrary, it made her shine brighter. The emperor, frustrated, decided to subject her to a challenge he believed was impossible to overcome: a philosophical debate against the empire's best sages. The philosophical debate that challenged 50 pagan sages. The debate hall was filled with tension. 50 philosophers summoned by the emperor took their places, confident that they would crush a young woman without experience. But when Catherine entered, with her head held high and a serene look, the atmosphere changed. There was something in her that inspired respect, even fear. The debate began, and the philosophers presented their arguments. They spoke of the ancient gods, the order of the universe, and Roman tradition. Catherine, in silence, listened to every word as if she were gathering strength. When it was her turn, she spoke with an eloquence that left everyone speechless. "Truth does not need adornments," she said, "because it is eternal and luminous." Her arguments, based on logic and faith, not only challenged pagan beliefs but also touched the hearts of those who listened. One by one, the philosophers began to doubt their own words. In the end, many of them confessed their conversion to Christianity, something that enraged the emperor. This event marked a turning point in Catherine's life. She had faced the intellectual power of the empire and emerged victorious. But her bravery also sealed her destiny. Maximian, unable to defeat her with words, decided to resort to violence. The emperor, blinded by anger, ordered that the converted philosophers be executed. Catherine, seeing the bravery of those who had accepted the truth, felt a mix of sadness and pride. Her tears were not of fear, but of compassion for those who gave their lives for Christ. This sacrifice only reinforced her determination to carry on, no matter how cruel the path ahead. That day was not only a victory for Catherine, it was a declaration that truth could not be silenced. As the hall emptied and murmurs of indignation filled the palace corridors, Catherine remained steadfast, aware that her destiny was in God's hands. Her bravery would be remembered for centuries, not just as an act of resistance, but as a demonstration of the power of faith in the face of adversity. The torment of the wheel, a symbol of her martyrdom. Emperor Maximian Daia, frustrated by Catherine's unwavering faith, decided that words were no longer sufficient. He ordered that the young woman be subjected to tortures, not only to break her body but also to send a message to those who dared to follow in her footsteps. It was then that he chose an instrument of execution that would become the symbol of her martyrdom: the wheel. The wheel was not just a mechanism of torture. It was a spectacle designed to instill terror. Catherine was tied to the wooden spokes, while the executioners slowly turned the device, seeking to tear her flesh with sharp blades. However, something extraordinary happened. According to chronicles, before the instrument could harm her, a celestial force intervened. The wheel broke into 1,000 pieces, sending splinters that wounded the executioners and left the crowd stunned. This miracle not only saved Catherine's life for a brief moment, but also ignited fervor among those who witnessed it. Many of the spectators, including soldiers and officials, began to believe that the young woman was protected by a divine force. Catherine's faith, demonstrated in her calmness and prayer even amidst torment, was more powerful than any punishment the empire could inflict upon her. Divine intervention in the wheel did not stop the emperor. Furious and humiliated, he ordered that Catherine be taken back to prison, where she would undergo new torments. But Catherine showed no fear. Instead, she used her time in captivity to pray and console other prisoners. The wheel, intended to be her end, became a testimony of her unwavering faith. Over the centuries, the image of Catherine beside the wheel became an emblem of spiritual resistance. She was not just a martyr, but a beacon of hope for those facing impossible trials. Her story was a reminder that even amidst the most extreme pain, faith can transform suffering into glory. Miracles during her martyrdom, a supernatural legacy. As Catherine endured the trials imposed by the emperor, miracles seemed to follow her like a luminous shadow. It was not only the destruction of the wheel that amazed the witnesses, but also the supernatural peace she radiated even in the darkest moments. Catherine did not break in body or spirit, as if a celestial force sustained her. One of the most remembered events occurred when Catherine, after being brutally beaten, was left to die in her cell. But at dawn, the guards found her body intact, with no signs of the wounds that should have weakened her. According to accounts, an angel had descended to heal her, an act that not only strengthened her body but also her resolve. The prisoners who shared her cell spoke of a light emanating from her during the night. This light, they said, not only illuminated the physical space but also their hearts, filling them with an inexplicable peace. Many of them, touched by her example and divine manifestations, embraced Christianity, despite the consequences. Even the executioners, tasked with carrying out the emperor's orders, began to doubt. How could a young woman endure so much suffering with such grace? Some of them, convinced that they were witnessing a power beyond human, knelt before Catherine, accepting her faith and sealing their destinies as martyrs. These miracles not only defined Catherine's life, but also her legacy. For centuries, devotees have recounted stories of healings and interventions attributed to her intercession, transforming her martyrdom into a source of hope and strength for those facing seemingly insurmountable challenges. The glorious death of Catherine, an immortal martyr, the emperor, unable to subdue Catherine with tortures or debates, made the final decision. He ordered her execution, convinced that eliminating her physically was the only way to silence her. However, Catherine showed no fear. Instead, she walked to the place of her execution with the dignity of a queen, as if she had already won the battle. Accounts tell that before her death, Catherine offered a final prayer, asking God that her sacrifice would serve to strengthen the faith of Christians and convert non-believers. Her voice was clear, and her words, filled with love and forgiveness, left many present with tears in their eyes. Even the soldiers tasked with executing her hesitated, unable to understand how someone could face death with such serenity. When the sword finally fell, it was not the end of Catherine, but the beginning of her eternal glory. According to traditions, at the moment of her death, a celestial perfume filled the air, and angels descended to carry her soul to heaven. Her body, miraculously preserved, was taken to Mount Sinai, where she would be venerated for generations. Catherine's death not only sealed her place as a martyr, but also inspired an entire community. Those who had witnessed her bravery and heard her message began to spread her story, and her name became a cry of resistance against oppression. Over time, Catherine's figure transcended the borders of Alexandria, reaching every corner of the Christian world. Her martyrdom was not a defeat but a victory, a reminder that true strength does not reside in weapons but in faith. The discovery of her body on Mount Sinai. Centuries after her martyrdom, Catherine's story took an unexpected turn. Accounts speak of Christian monks who, guided by divine visions, found her incorrupt body atop Mount Sinai. This place, sacred for its connection with Moses and the giving of the Ten Commandments, also became the sanctuary of an immortal martyr. Catherine's body was found in perfect condition, a phenomenon believers attributed to divine intervention. Her discovery not only confirmed her sanctity, but also made Mount Sinai a pilgrimage destination for Christians around the world. The monastery, built in her honor, remains, to this day, a place of prayer and reflection. The monks who tended her tomb spoke of miracles occurring at the site. Sick pilgrims recovered their health, and others found spiritual solace by praying alongside her relics. Even after her death, Catherine remained a source of strength and hope. Mount Sinai became a symbol of the connection between the human and the divine. It was a place where faith found refuge, and where generations could remember the sacrifice of a young woman who gave her life for the truth. The discovery of her body consolidated her status as one of the most revered saints in Christianity. Catherine was not only remembered for her bravery, but also for the way her legacy continued to touch lives, centuries after her martyrdom. Devotion to Saint Catherine in the Middle Ages. During the Middle Ages, the figure of Saint Catherine of Alexandria reached extraordinary prominence. Knights, monks, queens, and peasants revered her as a model of virtue and courage. It was said that Catherine was a powerful intercessor, capable of protecting those who sought wisdom and justice. In this era, universities adopted her as the patron saint of philosophers and students. Her image adorned manuscripts and murals, and her story was told in halls of learning and monasteries. Scholars saw her as a symbol of the union between reason and faith, an inspiration in a time when the pursuit of knowledge faced constant challenges. Pilgrims visiting Mount Sinai carried her devotion throughout Europe. Churches were built in her honor, and her feast day, celebrated on November 25th, became a solemn occasion. Catherine was not only remembered as a martyr, but also as a spiritual guide for those facing difficult decisions. In medieval accounts, Catherine was depicted with a crown and a broken wheel, symbols of her spiritual royalty and her martyrdom. These images not only recalled her sacrifice, but also the transformative power of faith in the lives of those who followed her. Devotion to Catherine in the Middle Ages consolidated her place in Christian history. Her name, engraved in the hearts of millions, was a reminder that bravery and wisdom could overcome even the darkest trials. Saint Catherine as protector of students and philosophers. Known as a young woman of brilliant intelligence, Saint Catherine of Alexandria was adopted over the centuries as the patron saint of students, philosophers, and those dedicated to learning. This bond is not coincidental. Catherine not only mastered the sciences and arts, but also used her knowledge to defend the Christian faith in the most iconic debate of her life, facing the pagan sages of the empire. In the Middle Ages, emerging universities revered her as a model of intellectual virtue. In a world where faith and reason seemed to be in constant tension, Catherine became a symbol that both could coexist. Her story inspired students to seek truth, not only in books but also in their spiritual lives. Prayers and masses dedicated to her were common before exams or important academic decisions. Catherine was also recognized as the protector of scholars who suffered persecution. In an era when ideas were judged harshly, her martyrdom was a reminder that knowledge should serve truth and justice, even if it entailed personal sacrifices. Monasteries and libraries across Europe dedicated chapels to her honor, making her a beacon of inspiration. Her artistic representations, holding a book and a broken wheel, became a familiar symbol in centers of learning. Students and philosophers, looking at them, found the necessary strength to face intellectual and spiritual challenges. The relationship between Catherine and academics transcended the boundaries of time and space. Even today, she is remembered as a guide for those seeking wisdom, justice, and truth. Her example inspires young hearts who, like her, wish to understand the world through the eyes of faith. Miracles attributed to Saint Catherine. Legends of faith and hope. Saint Catherine's story did not end with her martyrdom. For centuries, countless miracles have been attributed to her intercession, strengthening the devotion of those who call upon her for help. These stories, full of hope, became a living testimony of her power as a saint. One of the most well-known accounts is of a sailor who, lost in a storm, invoked Catherine. According to legend, a light appeared on the horizon, guiding him to a safe harbor. This event marked the beginning of her veneration as the protector of sailors, especially in the Mediterranean, where her name became synonymous with salvation. In the monasteries of Mount Sinai, sick and desperate pilgrims arrived seeking miraculous healings. Many returned with stories of inexplicable recoveries attributed to the saint. Catherine's relics, according to records, exuded a perfumed oil known as Catherine's balm, which the faithful considered a sign of her grace. Another legend speaks of a young man facing an unjust conviction who fervently prayed to Catherine. The night before his execution, the guards claimed to see a radiant figure beside his cell. The next morning, the prison doors were open, and the young man was found safe and sound in a nearby church. These miracles, collected and narrated over generations, not only reaffirmed her place as a divine intercessor, but also reinforced the faith of those seeking hope in times of despair. Catherine remains, for many, a source of comfort and spiritual strength. The Day of Saint Catherine. Traditions and festivities in her honor. November 25th, the Christian world celebrates the memory of Saint Catherine of Alexandria. This date, marked by solemnity and joy, has become a special occasion to reflect on her life and legacy. From processions to solemn masses, the faithful gather to honor one of the most venerated martyrs of Christianity. In Europe, especially during the Middle Ages, numerous traditions arose around this day. In France, unmarried young women, known as Catherinettes, prayed to Saint Catherine for wisdom and strength, especially in matters of the heart. This custom, which mixed the spiritual and the festive, is still remembered in some regions. In universities and learning centers, academic activities are held in honor of her figure. In some places, public readings of her story are performed, highlighting her bravery and love for knowledge. Students often dedicate prayers to Saint Catherine, seeking her intercession before crucial exams. In Mediterranean countries, where her devotion is deeply rooted, processions fill the streets. Images of the saint, adorned with flowers and candles, are carried by the faithful, while hymns are chanted in her honor. These celebrations are not only acts of faith, but also a testament to how Catherine continues to inspire generations. The Day of Saint Catherine is more than a festivity. It is an opportunity to remember the transformative power of faith. Her life, marked by wisdom and sacrifice, remains a light for those seeking truth in a world full of challenges. The relevance of her message in the modern world. Although she lived in the 3rd century, Saint Catherine's message transcends time. Her life is a reminder that faith, bravery, and knowledge can be powerful tools to face adversity. In a world that often separates spirituality from reason, Catherine demonstrates that both can coexist and strengthen each other. In an era marked by injustice, Catherine's story as a defender of truth inspires those who fight against oppression. Her bravery before the emperor and her willingness to defend her beliefs, even at the cost of her life, resonate deeply with those seeking justice in their own lives. Catherine's example is also relevant for young people who face constant pressures to conform to social expectations. Her rejection of the superficial values of her time and her dedication to a greater purpose are a call to seek what truly matters in life. Furthermore, her love of knowledge and her ability to debate eloquently are a testament to the importance of education. In a world where ideas face constant challenges, Catherine teaches us that learning should not only be intellectual but also spiritual. Today, Catherine's legacy lives on in faith communities, academic institutions, and the hearts of those seeking hope. Her message, though ancient, remains a powerful guide to facing modern challenges with wisdom and strength. Saint Catherine of Alexandria not only left a legacy of bravery and faith, but also an example of how to live a life dedicated to truth and divine love. Her story, filled with sacrifices and miracles, is a beacon of hope for those facing adversities on their own paths. Over the centuries, countless devotees have found comfort in her intercession, seeking her guidance in moments of uncertainty and her prayers in times of need. Today, in remembering her, we are called to reflect on our own lives. Catherine teaches us that wisdom and faith are not opposites, but allies that strengthen us to face the world's challenges. Her example inspires those who seek answers and the courage to defend the truth. In her memory, we open our hearts and raise our voices in prayer, asking her to be our guide and protector in every step of our journey. Prayer to Saint Catherine. O glorious Saint Catherine of Alexandria, martyr of Christ and beacon of celestial wisdom, we come before you with humility and faith. You who faced the powers of the world with courage and defended the truth with words and sacrifices, illuminate our hearts with your example and your love. Saint Catherine, patroness of students, philosophers, and seekers of knowledge, intercede for us before the throne of God. Help us to unite faith and reason so that our minds find clarity and our spirits a strength. In times of doubt, guide us toward the light of eternal truth. In moments of challenge, strengthen us to move forward with hope. You, who in your martyrdom showed the power of divine love, accompany those who suffer persecution, injustice, and difficult trials. May your example of bravery inspire those who fear to raise their voices for truth, and may your intercession bring peace to troubled hearts. O Holy Protector, who has touched so many lives with your miracles, hear our prayers. Pour your blessings upon us and those we love. Heal our wounds, physical and spiritual, and help us to live with the same love and dedication that you showed to Christ. In your hands, we place our worries and desires, trusting that, as a faithful intercessor, you will carry our petitions before God. Teach us to live with humility, wisdom, and love, so that one day we may share eternal glory with you. Saint Catherine of Alexandria, pray for us and always guide us on the path of truth and faith. Amen.